Okay, so fluency is going to take us some time. However, it's not difficult. It's just time consuming. Okay, so for fluency, it says select all expressions that are equal to the product of 11 and 2/10 and 1500ths. So if we're looking for all the products or all of the expressions that equal the product of 11.2 and 0.15. So product means to multiply. So we're going to sit here and count how many numbers are behind the decimal point. So I have a 2 behind the decimal point, and I have a 1 and a 5 behind the decimal point. Since I have both a 2, a 1, and a 5 behind the decimal point, that is 3 different numbers. So that's the number I put inside my bubble, 3. Okay, and I save that for later. So now I'm going to begin to multiply. So I start off with 1, 1, 2, and then I do 15, 1, and then 5. And I know I'm multiplying, so I'm going to put my time sign. And now I begin to multiply. 5 times 2 is 10. Bring up my 1. 5 times 1 is 5, plus that 1 is 6. And then 5 times 1 is 5. And I'm going to move this line down a little bit. Okay, so I'm done with this 5. So that means I have to go to that 1. But in order to multiply, remember, I have to stay in the same place value. So I'm staying in the tens place value. So now I can begin to put a 0 there for a placeholder. So I stay in line with the number I'm using to multiply, and I start with 1. 1 times 2, 2. 1 times 1, 1. 1 times 1, 1. And now I sit here and I add those up. So once I'm adding those up, I get 0 plus 0 is, put our 0 below. 6 plus 2, 6, 7, 8. So you get 8. 5 plus 1, 6. And then 1, because it's 1 plus 0, 1. Now, here's the thing we have to look at, is this 3. We know when we have a whole number, the decimal point is at the end. So we have to swoop to the left 3 times. Swoop once, swoop twice, swoop 3 times. So your answer now is 1 in 680 thousandths. Okay? So 1.680, that's the answer that we are looking for in all of them. So we have to circle which ones equal that. Okay, so the first one says the product of 3 and 4/10 and 12/100. So again, count how many numbers are behind the decimal. I got a 4, a 1, and a 2. So that's 3 numbers. So I'm going to be moving that decimal 3 times. So I have 34. So I have 34, and then I have 12. Put the time sign. So I do 4 times 2, get my 8. 2 times 3, 6. Okay, now that I have that, I put my yellow X over the 2 because I have to stay with the 1. I want to make sure I put my numbers underneath in the tens place. So I'm going to put a 0 as my placeholder. Another number means another row. And I'm actually going to move my line down, and I know we're cramming a lot in this slide. I want to make sure if you go off the slide, it's fine. I'm okay with that. 1 times 4 now. We begin 4. Then 1 times 3, 3. We begin to add. We get 8. Then you get 6 plus 4 is 10, 0. Bring up the 1. 3 plus 1 is 4. We have to move the decimal point 3 times, so the decimal point starts off here. Swoop once, swoop twice, swoop 3 times. So we get our answer of 0.408. That is not what we're looking here. So we're going to move on to B. The difference between 18 and 59 hundredths and 16 and 91 hundredths. So difference means to subtract. So I'm going to put my 18, 1, 8, point 5, 9, and then we're going to subtract 16, 1. Remember, when we subtract, we line up our digits and our decimal point. So the 6 is in the ones place, so I put the 6 in the ones. My decimals are lined up. My 9 is in the tenths place, so I put my 9 under the 5 in the tenths place. And I put my 1 in the hundredths place under the 9 in the hundredths place. And now that I'm subtracting, I'm going to drop that decimal point down. So I'm going to drop it like it's hot. Dropping it down. 9 minus 1 is 8. 5 minus 9 I can't do, so that 8 becomes a 7. And that 5 becomes a 15. 15 minus 9 is 6. 7 minus 6 is 1. 1 minus 1 is 0. So we get 1.0, well, oopsies, 1 and 68 hundredths. Not the answer. Oh, but let's look here. 1 and 68 hundredths. Now, this is a trick one. I could sit here and I almost missed it, but you have a 0. I could put as many zeros as I wanted behind our decimal point. It does not matter how many zeros. I can add 100 zeros if I wanted to. That is the same thing, okay? I could even delete this 0 and I'd still have 1 and 68, 1.68, okay? So I can pick B. It doesn't matter how many zeros you have after your decimal point, or your number. You can have that. You can also take them away and still have the same number. Okay, so let's look at C. The sum of 0.36, 1.2, and 0.12. So sum means to add. So we're going to add both those up. I'm going to drop my line a little bit lower. And we're going to add. So I put my decimal point, 0.3, 6. We're going to bring these down. And then I have 1.2. So I'm going to put my decimal point. And I'm going to put 1 in front because that's where it belongs, because it's in the ones place. And then I'm going to put the 2 in the tens place because that's where it belongs. And then I have 0.12, so I'll put my decimal point, 0. Then I'll put 1. And then I'll put 2 because 2 is in the hundredths, 1 is in the tenths, making sure it lines up. Everything's lined up. I can put a 0 as a placeholder, so I know I have to add 6 plus 2 up. So before I begin adding, I want to drop that decimal point down. Drop it down. 6 plus 2 now. We're going to start adding. 6 plus 2 is 8. 3 plus 2 is 5. 5 plus 1 is 6. And then 1 plus 0 is 1. So again, looking here, I have 1.68. Again, I can add as many zeros as I want after that, and it'd still be the same number, so I could circle C. Last one is D, the difference between 45.67 and 42.99. Remember, difference means to subtract, so I'm going to do that over here. We're going to subtract 45, 4, 5, decimal point, put the 6 in the tens place value, the 7 in the hundreds place value, then we're going to subtract, and we're going to do our decimal point, and I'm going to put my 4 that's in the tens place value under the 4 in the tens place value, the 2 in the ones place value, underneath the 5 in the ones place value, the 9 in the tenths place value, underneath the 6 in the tens place value, and then a 9 in the hundreds place value, underneath the 7 in the hundreds place value. And then I'm going to begin to subtract, but before I do that, I got to drop that decimal point down, drop it down, drop it down, drop it down. And now I begin to subtract. 7 minus 9, I can't do that, so the 6 becomes a 5. The 7 becomes a 17. 17 minus 9 is 8. 5 minus 9, I can't do, so I go to my 5. It becomes a 4. And then my 5 becomes a 15. 15 minus 9 is 6. 4 minus 2 is 2. And 4 minus 4 is 0. So I get 2 and 68 hundredths, which is not the answer we are looking for. So we are done, and our answers for this is B and C.